There's a phenomenon happening right now that nobody wants to talk about. Good men, faithful men, men who do everything right, are being left by their women at rates we've never seen before. Not for bad boys, not for richer men, not for more attractive men, but seemingly for no reason at all. These men provide, they're emotionally available, they communicate, they do all the things the relationship experts tell them to do. And yet they come home one day to find their partner has checked out emotionally, or worse, is already gone. And when they ask why, when they demand an explanation, they get vague answers. I'm not happy anymore. I need to find myself. We've grown apart. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. These explanations sound reasonable on the surface, but they mask a deeper truth that Arthur Schopenhauer understood over a century ago. Women don't leave good men because something is wrong with the men. They leave because something fundamental about female nature makes long-term satisfaction nearly impossible. And before you accuse me of misogyny or bitterness, understand that Schopenhauer wasn't attacking women. He was observing a pattern that repeats itself across cultures, across centuries, across every demographic imaginable. He was identifying a biological and psychological reality that our modern culture refuses to acknowledge because it shatters our romantic illusions about love, commitment, and happily ever after. Let me tell you about James. James is 38, successful software engineer, makes $200,000 a year, in great shape, emotionally intelligent, spent years in therapy working on himself. He met Sarah at 29, and by all accounts, she was his dream woman. They dated for 2 years, got married, bought a house in a nice neighborhood, started planning for kids. James did everything right. He listened when Sarah talked about her day, he planned date nights, he helped with housework without being asked. He was faithful, supportive, present. He was, by every modern metric, a good man. And then, 7 years into the marriage, Sarah told him she wanted a divorce. James was blindsided. There had been no major fights, no infidelity, no financial problems, nothing that would typically signal the end of a marriage. When he asked what he did wrong, Sarah couldn't give him a straight answer. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said. "I just don't feel it anymore. I need something different. I need to be on my own." And James, like so many men in his position, was left holding the wreckage of a life he'd built in good faith, wondering what the hell just happened. Schopenhauer would have understood James's confusion perfectly, because he spent considerable time analyzing the nature of romantic love and the fundamental differences between male and female psychology. In his essay on women, Schopenhauer argued that women are fundamentally driven by biological imperatives that have nothing to do with the conscious reasons they give for their choices. According to Schopenhauer, women are nature's agents, designed to secure the best possible genetic material and resources for their offspring. Everything else, all the talk about emotional connection, compatibility, shared values, that's window dressing. That's the story we tell ourselves to make the biological imperative seem noble and romantic. But underneath, according to Schopenhauer, women are constantly evaluating whether their current partner still represents the best option available. And when that evaluation shifts, when a woman decides her partner is no longer optimal, she leaves. Not consciously, not maliciously, but driven by forces she doesn't fully understand or control. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds harsh, reductive, maybe even cruel. But stay with me, because what Schopenhauer identified isn't about individual women being bad people. It's about recognizing that romantic love, the thing our entire culture is built around, is fundamentally unstable. It's not designed to last forever. It's designed to get two people together long enough to reproduce and raise children through their vulnerable years. After that, from a biological standpoint, the relationship has served its purpose. Schopenhauer called romantic love nature's trick, a temporary madness that clouds our judgment and makes us think we've found our soulmate, when really we've just found someone whose genetics complement our own. And once that madness wears off, usually after a few years, we're left looking at a stranger and wondering why we ever thought this person was special. Here's where it gets really interesting. Schopenhauer noticed that women are particularly susceptible to what he called the disappointment of fulfillment. When a woman finally gets what she thinks she wants, a good man who loves her, provides for her, commits to her, She doesn't feel satisfied. She feels empty. Because the chase, the uncertainty, the drama of trying to secure a man's commitment, that's where the excitement lives. Once she has it, once there's nothing left to win, boredom sets in. And modern women, raised on a diet of romance novels and romantic comedies, interpret this boredom as a sign that they're with the wrong person. They think, if this were true love, I'd still feel those butterflies. I'd still feel that excitement. So they leave the good man, convinced that their soulmate is still out there somewhere, not realizing that the feeling they're chasing is chemically impossible to sustain in a long-term relationship. What city are you watching this from right now? I want to know because this pattern is playing out everywhere, from New York to Tokyo, from London to Sydney. Drop your city in the comments because understanding where you're experiencing this from helps me understand the full scope of how universal these dynamics really are. Whether you're in a small town or a massive metropolis, the truth Schopenhauer identified doesn't change based on geography. Let's dig deeper into why good men specifically are vulnerable to this pattern. You'd think that being a good man, being reliable, faithful, emotionally available, would protect you from being left. But Schopenhauer would argue the opposite. He'd say that being too good actually makes you less attractive over time because it eliminates tension, uncertainty, and challenge. Women, according to Schopenhauer, are attracted to potential, to the promise of something great, not to realized goodness. A man who has already proven himself, who is stable and predictable, becomes boring. There's nothing left to discover, nothing left to fix, nothing left to earn. And without that dynamic tension, attraction dies. This is why bad boys, despite being objectively worse partners, often maintain attraction longer. They're unpredictable. They withhold approval. They create emotional chaos that keeps a woman engaged and uncertain. It's not healthy, it's not sustainable, but it generates the kind of emotional intensity that good men fail to create, precisely because they're too consistent, too reliable, too safe. Schopenhauer also identified what he called the tyranny of female choice. In his view, women hold all the power in the initial stages of relationships because men are the pursuers and women are the selectors. But this power creates a paradox. Because women can choose from multiple options, they're never quite satisfied with their choice. There's always the nagging question, could I have done better? Did I settle? And this doubt, this perpetual sense that there might be something better out there, poisons long-term contentment. Men, on the other hand, tend to bond more deeply once they've chosen a partner. They're not constantly comparing their partner to other options because they've already made their selection. But women, according to Schopenhauer, never fully stop evaluating. They're always running a background calculation, comparing their current partner to past partners, to potential partners, to the idealized partner in their imagination. And good men inevitably fail this comparison because they're real, flawed, human, while the alternatives remain abstract and therefore perfect. Let's return to James for a moment. After Sarah left, James went through the typical stages of grief and confusion. He blamed himself, wondered what he could have done differently, considered whether he should have been more dominant or less available, or more mysterious. He read books, went to more therapy, tried to understand where he went wrong, and eventually, he started dating again. He met women who seemed initially excited about him, who praised him for being such a good guy, who told him how different he was from their exes. But the pattern repeated itself. After 6 months, a year, 18 months, they'd lose interest. The excitement would fade, the texts would become less frequent, the passion would evaporate, and they'd eventually tell him some variation of the same thing Sarah said. You're amazing, but I'm just not feeling it anymore. And James finally realized something that Schopenhauer had been trying to tell men for over a century. Being good isn't enough. In fact, being too good might be the problem. Now, before we go further, I need to address the obvious objection. Not all women are like this. There are women who stay with good men, who appreciate them, who build long, happy marriages with reliable partners, and that's absolutely true. Schopenhauer wasn't saying every woman operates according to this pattern. He was saying that this pattern represents a fundamental aspect of female psychology that exists in tension with the conscious desire for security and partnership. Most women want to be loyal, want to appreciate their good men, want to make their relationships work, but they're fighting against biological and psychological impulses that pull them in the opposite direction. And in modern culture, where women have financial independence, where divorce carries no social stigma, where the entire culture tells women they deserve to be happy and fulfilled at all times, those impulses win more often than not. Schopenhauer believed that women experience what he called the metaphysics of sexual love differently than men. For men, sexual attraction and romantic love are relatively straightforward. A man sees a woman he finds attractive, he pursues her, and if she reciprocates, he bonds. His attraction is primarily visual and physical, and once established, it tends to remain stable. But for women, Schopenhauer argued, attraction is more complex and more unstable. It's based on a constantly shifting evaluation of a man's status, resources, genetic quality, and emotional impact. A man can be objectively the same person he was a year ago, but if a woman's perception of his value shifts, if she meets someone who seems higher status, if she reads something that makes her question whether she's settled, her attraction can evaporate seemingly overnight. And this isn't conscious manipulation. Most women don't wake up and decide to stop being attracted to their partners. It happens at a level below conscious awareness, driven by forces that Schopenhauer traced back to nature's imperative to optimize reproductive outcomes. Here's another brutal truth. The better a man is at meeting a woman's stated needs, the less attractive he becomes. Women say they want men who listen, who are emotionally available, who help with domestic tasks, who are sensitive to their feelings. And consciously, they do want these things. But Schopenhauer would say that these qualities, when present in abundance, actually undermine attraction because they signal a lack of options. A man who is too eager to please, too available, too accommodating, unconsciously communicates that he doesn't have better options, that he needs this relationship more than she does. And that neediness, that lack of abundance mentality, kills attraction faster than almost anything else. Women are attracted to men who have options, who could walk away, who don't need them. And good men, by definition, demonstrate the opposite. They invest deeply, they commit fully, they make themselves vulnerable, and in doing so, they make themselves less attractive. Schopenhauer also wrote about what he called the brevity of female beauty and its consequences. He noted that women's primary power in the sexual marketplace, their youth and beauty, is temporary and declining. Men, on the other hand, can build status and resources over time, meaning their value can increase with age. This creates an asymmetry in relationship dynamics. A woman in her 20s dating a man in his 20s might feel she has the upper hand because she has more options. But as both partners age, especially if the man has been building his career and status, the power dynamic shifts. The woman's options decrease while the man's options potentially increase. And Schopenhauer argued that women unconsciously know this, which creates anxiety and dissatisfaction. A 35-year-old woman married to a successful man knows that her husband could potentially attract younger women while her own options are shrinking. This creates resentment and a desire to leave while she still can, while she still has some bargaining power in the sexual marketplace. Let me share another story. Michael, 45, married for 20 years, 3 kids. Michael built a successful business, provided an upper-middle-class lifestyle, was by all accounts a devoted husband and father. His wife, Jennifer, was a stay-at-home mom who seemed happy for most of their marriage. But when their youngest child turned 18 and left for college, Jennifer announced she wanted a divorce. She told Michael she'd spent 20 years taking care of everyone else, and now it was time to take care of herself. She wanted to travel, to rediscover who she was, to have adventures before it was too late. Michael was devastated. He'd been planning for their golden years together, for grandkids, for the freedom that comes when your children are grown, and you can finally focus on each other. But Jennifer saw it differently. She saw 20 years of sacrifice and service, and now that the kids didn't need her anymore, she didn't see why she should stay. Schopenhauer would recognize this pattern immediately. Once a woman's reproductive purpose has been fulfilled, once the children are raised, the biological imperative to maintain the relationship dissolves. What's left is just two people, and if there's no longer a compelling reason to stay together, if the passion has long since died, why stay? The modern world has amplified every dynamic Schopenhauer identified. Women now have economic independence. They don't need men for financial security. They have social independence. They don't need marriage for respectability. They have reproductive independence. They can have children without partners, or choose not to have children at all. Every traditional reason for women to stay in relationships with good men has been removed. What's left is pure emotional satisfaction, and emotional satisfaction is notoriously fleeting and unreliable. Schopenhauer would say we've created a culture where relationships are held together by the weakest possible bond, romantic feelings, and then we act surprised when they dissolve at unprecedented rates. We've removed all the external structures that used to hold relationships together through the inevitable periods of discontent, and we've replaced them with nothing except the expectation that you should feel happy and fulfilled at all times. Social media has made this exponentially worse. Women are now constantly exposed to alternatives, to the highlight reels of other people's relationships, to the illusion that everyone else has found perfect love while they're stuck with an ordinary man. They see their friends' vacation photos, engagement announcements, romantic gestures, and they compare these curated moments to the mundane reality of their own relationships. They see attractive, successful men in their feeds and wonder what it would be like to be with someone like that, instead of the familiar, ordinary man sitting across from them at breakfast. This constant exposure to alternatives feeds the dissatisfaction that Schopenhauer said was already inherent in female psychology. It makes contentment nearly impossible because there's always someone who appears to have something better. Schopenhauer believed that men and women experience suffering differently. Men suffer from external obstacles, from their inability to achieve their goals, from the resistance the world puts up against their ambitions. But women, according to Schopenhauer, suffer from internal restlessness, from a dissatisfaction that has no clear object or solution. This is why women can have everything they said they wanted: the good man, the nice house, the financial security, the family, and still feel profoundly unhappy. Because the dissatisfaction isn't about circumstances, it's about something deeper, something that can't be fixed by finding a better man or a better situation. It's a fundamental aspect of the human condition that women feel more acutely, because they're more attuned to emotional states, more aware of what's missing, more sensitive to the gap between expectation and reality. So what's a good man supposed to do with this information? Should he stop being good? Should he become more selfish, more unpredictable, more emotionally unavailable? Schopenhauer would say no. He'd say that trying to manipulate your way into maintaining attraction is futile, because you're fighting against forces much larger than individual choice or strategy. Instead, he'd advocate for what he called resignation, a clear-eyed acceptance of reality without bitterness. Understand that romantic love is temporary, that relationships will inevitably lose their intensity, that your partner will likely become dissatisfied no matter what you do. And with that understanding, you can make conscious choices about how to proceed. You can choose to stay in relationships for reasons other than passion, for companionship, for shared history, for the sake of children. Or you can choose to remain single, to avoid the whole messy business of trying to maintain something that's designed to be temporary. What you can't do is believe the fairy tale, the story that if you just find the right person and do everything right, you'll live happily ever after. The truth about why women leave good men is that being good was never the point. Nature doesn't care about morality, about fairness, about rewarding good behavior. Nature cares about genetic diversity, about keeping options open, about never fully committing to a suboptimal choice. And from nature's perspective, a good man who is stable and predictable is less valuable than an uncertain prospect who might be even better. Women are caught between their conscious desires for security and partnership and their unconscious drives for optimization and novelty. And in modern culture, where the unconscious drives face no external resistance, where women are told to follow their feelings and prioritize their happiness above all else, those drives win. Not because women are bad people, but because they're human, subject to the same biological imperatives that have shaped our species for millennia. James eventually stopped trying to figure out what he did wrong. He accepted that Sarah left not because of his failures, but because of dynamics he couldn't control. He stopped seeing himself as deficient and started seeing the situation more clearly. He still dates, still hopes for connection, but he no longer believes that being good will protect him from being left. He understands now what Schopenhauer tried to teach, that romantic relationships are fundamentally unstable, that attraction is not a rational process, that women can and will leave good men for reasons that have nothing to do with the men themselves. And strangely, this understanding has made him more attractive, not less, because he no longer operates from fear, no longer contorts himself to maintain a woman's approval, no longer mistakes being nice for being attractive. He's just himself, take it or leave it. And that indifference, that abundance mentality, that's what actually generates attraction. Schopenhauer's ultimate conclusion about relationships was deeply pessimistic, but also strangely liberating. He said that the less we expect from romantic love, the less we'll be disappointed. That the men who suffer most are the ones who believe in soulmates, who think they can find permanent happiness through another person, who invest their entire identity in being good partners. These men are set up for devastating disappointment because they're operating based on illusions. The men who suffer least are those who understand that romantic love is a temporary phenomenon, that relationships serve biological purposes that have nothing to do with our conscious desires for meaning and connection, and that being left by a woman says nothing about your worth as a person. It just means nature's calculation has shifted, and you're no longer the optimal choice in her unconscious estimation. There's nothing personal about it, even though it feels deeply personal. It's just biology playing itself out through the medium of human relationships. Now here's what I need you to do with everything you've just learned. This understanding of why women leave good men, this Schopenhauerian perspective on the fundamental instability of romantic relationships, it's not information you keep to yourself. Drop a comment right now that says, "I understand the game now," because that's what this is, understanding the deeper game beneath the surface narrative. When you write those words, you're acknowledging that you see through the illusions, that you're no longer operating based on fairy tales and false promises, that you're ready to engage with reality as it actually is, rather than as you wish it were. After you've commented, subscribe to this channel and hit that like button. This content exists because there are men who are tired of being fed comfortable lies, who want the uncomfortable truth even when it shatters their romantic illusions. Every subscription tells me there's an audience for this level of depth, for philosophical perspectives that challenge everything the culture teaches about relationships. You're not just supporting content, you're supporting a space where we can examine these dynamics honestly, without fear of cancellation or social judgment. Because what's coming next goes even deeper into territory that most creators won't touch. The next video explores a dynamic so controversial, so at odds with everything modern culture teaches, that it will completely transform how you understand power, attraction, and the real reasons relationships succeed or fail. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but if today's exploration of Schopenhauer resonated with you, if it helped you make sense of experiences you couldn't explain before, then what's coming will take that clarity to an entirely new level. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it.